Good morning. We're very excited this morning to have a young man that's going to speak to us. His name's Michael Coker. I think I've known Michael since he was probably about two. Michael was in youth and attended New Hope here. It's been very excellent. It was helpful, I think, with John and Melissa when they were doing the youth. And Michael has come to share with us about his experience and going to share some stuff, I think, about his trip to Israel also. So let's make Michael welcome.
We'll be all right. Well, it is different being up here because I've never been up here on this stage before. But currently, I am the youth pastor at the First Church of God in Shelby, Ohio. So, and they let me come down here today to share with you and to be with you today. So, they're trying to make it without me. So we'll say it that way. Let's open with a word of prayer. Dear God, we just thank you for this opportunity to come together and to be in your word, talk about your holy land, and just talk about how you are with us wherever we are. No matter where we are on this earth, we can have your presence amongst us. In your name we pray. Amen. Have you ever wanted to take a pilgrimage to Israel? To see the sights and hear the sounds of Old Jerusalem? To walk the streets where Jesus presumably walked? To walk the Stations of the Cross just like Jesus did 2,000 years ago? And as I was explaining this to Aaron, the Stations of the Cross are the 12 stations from where Jesus had to walk and carry the cross, from where he was beaten and to where he was actually hung on the cross. So you can actually walk the streets of Old Jerusalem and see like where they traditionally think that these things take place. You can take a boat ride across the Sea of Galilee. I believe there should be a picture for that. There's a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee. You can swim in the Dead Sea or float in the Dead Sea. So Dead Sea up there. You could get baptized in the Jordan River. Has anybody ever wanted to do that? Okay, there's the Jordan River. I don't know what your picture of the Jordan River looked like before this, but this is where they actually baptize people in the Jordan River, at this site specifically. You would go down in like those railing areas, and that's where you would wait, like in the queue, to wait for like the movie theater, and then you would go into the river and get baptized. So, have you ever wanted to walk on the Temple Mount where the temple used to stand? This picture up here is a replica of the Temple Mount. They have this huge, probably about 100 yards long version of the city of Jerusalem as it would have stood in Jesus' day at one of the museums in Israel. So this is the Temple Mount. That's the temple on top. And only like the Jewish people would go up there to worship God. And only one priest would be able to go into the actual Holy of Holies. But is that something that you would want to do? Is that somewhere that you would want to visit? What a great spiritual experience this could be. A pilgrimage, if you don't know, is a journey, usually of some length, to a place that is usually religious. A pilgrimage to Israel usually would have a spiritual implications to it as well. There's usually an expectation or desire that you are going to connect with God in this space, to connect with the divine in a new way, to feel the presence of God all around you just because you are in the land of God's original people. Does this sound like something that you would like to do? Go to a specific place and feel God's presence more than you have ever felt God's presence in your life before. Well, I believe that most of you know, obviously I'm showing you pictures, that I got the opportunity last summer to visit Israel. I spent 2 weeks there, and we are now going to show you about a 5-minute long slideshow of some of the pictures. So, so I'm going to step down for a second. We're going to do that. right, does anybody else have trouble with that silence? Because I kind of did. So those are some of my pictures from Israel. I'm not really going to go through and explain every one. I probably won't talk about very many of them. But if you have questions about specific ones, I will do my best to figure out and try to remember where exactly that was. If you ask Erin, when I finished showing her my pictures, it was probably like a month ago. And I went in June. So I did not do a very good job even showing my wife my pictures from my trip. So some of them I probably have forgotten exactly the moment, but I'm pretty sure I can narrow it down to a specific day, and then I have my itinerary still so I can figure out the events that we were at. So those are some of my pictures. I spent 2 weeks there, like I said, not on a religious pilgrimage, not like some people desire to go, but I went there to study. I went there to view the sites, just like the people on a pilgrimage would, not just of where Jesus was, but also to some of the sites of the early Christians. Some of the pictures up there were from synagogues that date from anywhere from the 1st century up through the 6th century. So there's a lot of history there. It's not just all about the 1st century. Places that I went, some of these names might just go right over your head, but like the Basilica of Annunciation, where God told Mary through an angel that she was going to be pregnant. Got to go to the Sea of Galilee and take a boat ride, visit the Jordan River, visit the Mount of Olives, the Church of Ascension, the Garden of Gethsemane, the Temple Mount, the City of David, the Pool of Siloam, the Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And we got to walk the footsteps where Jesus carried the cross, and we got to visit the Church of the Nativity. So if you have any questions about those things, I'm more than happy to talk about them afterwards. Many of these sites are the same ones that you would go to on a religious pilgrimage. And it was very interesting to cross paths with some of these people. In one of the pictures, you saw people with a lot of orange hats, I believe. Those people were there as a group that were on a religious pilgrimage. And I believe that was also when we were walking the Stations of the Cross, they were doing it as on that religious pilgrimage. So we could see them praying. We could see them spending a lot of time trying to get in contact with God through spirituality. So questions that arose in my mind during this trip about a religious pilgrimage to Israel were, what are these people trying to get in Israel that they cannot get anywhere else? What is it about Israel that we don't have maybe here in Dayton, Ohio? As we start moving to where I want to go with this conversation, I want to make it clear that I loved my trip to Israel, and I would not tell anybody not to go to Israel. It's a great place to help bring life to the Bible, and it's a great place for your faith to come to life a little bit. So with that being said, I want us to turn our attention to the thought of Christian spirituality in the presence of God in this world. I want us to talk about, where is God present? Is God present just in Israel, where the Holy of Holies used to sit? Or is God present everywhere? Spirituality can mean very different things to all of us. It's a very ambiguous word. So what I want to do is I kind of made up a definition of my own of what spirituality means, and that's kind of what we're going to go with today. So there's no argument about this. Okay? So spirituality is having a deep, intimate connection with the divine, or with God. Okay, that's what we're going to go with. It's a deep, intimate connection with God. For you personally, have you ever had this kind of connection with God? A deep, intimate connection. Have you ever been somewhere and felt the presence of God just hover around you? A connection that seems maybe almost supernatural. For me, there has been many instances where the presence of God I can feel has reached into my body and touched my soul. Most of these experiences for me happen when music is present. Music is something that just allows me to connect with God. That song that we played during the video, Give Me Faith, I'll talk about a little bit later, but that's a song that I've really connected with, and especially on my Israel trip, and I'll finish talking about that in a little bit. So when I connect to the words of a song and can really understand what it means for my life and connect to what God is trying to say to me through those words, I really can have a spiritual experience. And with with the invention of earbuds or earphones, we can have personal experiences with music, not just corporate experiences with music out of loudspeakers. But I think a lot of times when I have those spiritual experiences, it's usually when I have those earphones in and I'm listening to it and able to focus on just that. This connection to the vine has actually happened for me in this very room many times. If you don't know me, like Bill said, I've grown up here. This was my home church all my life until about 5 years ago. So I've had many experiences where I could feel the Spirit of God on my life in this very room, and I'm sure many of you have probably experienced that as well. One of the great things that I've learned about God is that God is not trapped in a single space. For you, I hope that God is not trapped in this church or any other building that you may call church or call home, but God is anywhere that you are present. Have you ever been to the Western Wall? Have you ever heard of the Western Wall or the Wailing Wall? I think I have a picture of it. All right, this is the Western Wall or the Wailing Wall, and it is connected to the Temple Mount. So you remember that picture of the Temple Mount? I think is there a next picture of the Temple Mount? Or did I not put that in there? Okay, so remember the Temple Mount here? So the Western Wall would be just like this wall right here, but just on the opposite side. It's the westernmost part of the wall, obviously, since it's the Western Wall. It is the only part of the Temple Mount that's still seeable from the outside. A lot of the Western Wall is even covered by just ground now. But this part of the Western Wall is probably about maybe 100 yards of a 300-yard wall. And this wall is the only place, one of the only places that Jewish people can go, one of the closest places Jewish people can go to the Holy of Holies. Because they don't go on the Temple Mount anymore because they don't know where the temple was destructed. In 70 it was completely destroyed. So the ruins are the only things that were left. So, and they don't know exactly where the location of the Holies of Holies was, so they don't even go up there anymore. To kind of explain that a little bit, in the Old Testament, God was in the temple. He was in the Holy of Holies. That was the only place the presence of God was known. And only once a year could one priest go into the Holy of Holies and be in the presence of God to sacrifice for the whole people, for the whole group of the Israelites. So for Jewish people, that's still kind of their belief, is that God would be in that place, in that Holy of Holies. But for us, we don't necessarily believe that. Once Jesus died on the cross, that veil was torn that separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the temple, and we are now able to be in the presence of God. So now the Jewish people believe that there's still separation. They're still not able to be in the presence of God unless they are that priest that can go into the presence of God. So actually on the Temple Mount now, you can go up there, but it is very Muslim. There's the Dome of the Rock. I think there's 2 mosques on top of the Temple Mount now. So it is very different than back in Jesus' day. So at the Western Wall, there are people praying. Usually at the Western Wall, it is usually mostly males. I think only the males can physically get up to the wall and touch it there. They cry, they pray out to God like it is the only place that they can connect with God. There is also a place just down the wall where you can go inside and into some tunnels, and that is where you would find the women praying. You'll find them sitting in like lawn chairs at the place where they are the closest to the Holy of Holies that they think possible. So usually you see men out here, and probably boys. They have an outdoor synagogue here where they would do like a worship service. And then you would find the women in the tunnel. So as my group was walking past these women, sitting in the tunnel, connecting with the divine in some way that I didn't fully understand, I wasn't fully able to grasp, I asked myself, is this the place where God is most evident in the whole world? Is this the place where we can spiritually connect to God better than anywhere else in the whole planet? My answer to this was, how could it be? I want to read something